Hi, y'all. This is Kristen Chenoweth.
Hi, I'm Gloria Stefan.
This is Sarah Bareilles.
Hi, I'm Patti LuPone.
This is Lin-Manuel Miranda. You're listening to the Broadway Podcast Network.
Here you go. 1, 2, 3.
Welcome to a very special bonus episode of the Theater Podcast. Back on January 7th, Jillian and I attended a press event for the Loveville High podcast launch. Being a podcaster myself, I was very excited to be part of the night where they debuted what I hope will be a growing trend in original, scripted, serialized podcasts, of course starring Broadway names. And what you're about to hear now is a single episode edited together from various interviews that I did throughout the evening. We're starting off with David Zelnick, who wrote the books and the lyrics, followed by actors Harrison Chad, Connor Ryan, and Mason Alexander Park. And then this episode actually even ends with a special interview with Adam Rothenberg, who you may know better as Adam from callmeadam.com, who is a Broadway interviewer himself. And he was also there covering the event for his website. So I was really excited to meet him and get him on this podcast as well. So here you go. Let's get started now with David Zelnick. So this is actually a podcast, which in the Broadway circuit is a little bit unusual. Where did you come up with the idea? Was it you that had the idea
It was me that came up with the idea. I don't know exactly. I love podcasts, and Eric Svekar, the composer, and I, a few years ago, wrote a song that we loved. And I was trying to think of ways that we could put it in the universe that wasn't sort of an invitation to something else, but was the thing itself. Mm-hmm. And I thought, wouldn't it be amazing if we could find New York talent to not do like advertisements for shows in New York that you can't see, but actually do a bit of amazing work and send it to the world and just live as itself.
That's amazing. And did you start out knowing that you wanted to do 9 episodes, or did it just kind of evolve?
No, it sort of came to me in a vision. I don't know why. I had this idea that if we told 9 short stories of love, all set at one high school, all with interlocking characters, then each of these episodes could be satisfying, but wouldn't have to bear the weight of doing an entire 10-minute musical universe of itself. Right. Because I've heard 10-minute musicals that are wonderful, but they have to do so much work to establish tone, world, everything. And I thought if we could do sort of a quasi-La sort of where we follow characters through different scenes and different emotions and different relationships. In one, they're the one who's in love, and one, they're the one who's turned someone down. And also just some self-contained scenes that can be done in acting classes or in one-act festivals. I thought it would be a beautiful, full event.
So for those who may not know what Loveville High is, what's your 30-second pitch?
My 30-second pitch is that it is 9 short scenes about love. It is about that scary, amazing, wonderful, terrifying moment when the shape of what a life in love might look like and what a relationship might look like, and it often happens to us when we're 17 or 18 years old. So,
did you pull from any of a real-world experience for this?
Sure. I mean, not only do I draw from my life and friends' lives, I also happen to, a few days a week, tutor 17-year-olds. So I'm sort of privy to just glimpses of what that universe looks like and how much feeling and how much weight and how high the stakes are when you're that age. And
everything's just so important. Yeah.
Everything becomes a symbol of how your entire life is going to be. And when you're optimistic, you think your whole life's going to be great. And when you're sad, you think you're never going to be happy again. And it's liberating as a writer to be able to write people who are so inside their feelings like that.
And did you enjoy writing this any more or less than other projects that you've written?
So up till now, I've only written full musicals. And so when I wrote with my brother a musical called Yank, it felt very important to make an event that is iconic and as itself lives to tell a story about, in that case, gay history. Here, I felt like as long as there's just a little moment of risk or heartbreak, a little revelation, then that would be enough. And so it is kind of new for me because each episode doesn't bear the weight of having to tell the universe.
Was it hard? There's very well-known Broadway stars who are part of this. Was it hard to convince them to join the project?
It wasn't. Basically, we hired a casting director, Michael Casara, who is wonderful, and we were going to ask some of our friends who've been on Broadway, and he said, wouldn't it be amazing to ask people who are the cusp of their careers on Broadway to be these characters who are the cusp of their lives. And so we created a Dropbox. We shared the songs with our first choices, and our first choices said yes. So it's really amazing.
Yeah, I was very impressed with the cast list, and on our podcast, we've interviewed Ali Stroker too. So like, dear friend of ours. Yeah, looking through the cast list, I'm so excited. I've listened to the trailer multiple times.
The first 3 episodes are out. So.
Yeah, so now it is great. They are out. Where did you come up? Was it your idea to do like the full-blown press event, and like we're here, there's the step and repeat, there's like you can hear the crowd around us. I've never, for a podcast launch, have never experienced this before.
It was not fully my idea. It was I'm working with Katie Rosen at Campfire PR, and she wanted something exuberant and fun to launch it into the world, because she made me realize that there could be something sad about releasing it into the world and not having any moment to celebrate it or any way to like know that it happened. So I'm tracking our downloads. We've had 50 different people download the first 3 episodes today, which feels amazing, but also is like, I don't know who they are, and like, so this is wonderful. This is a wonderful, joyous, I don't know, stepping out for this podcast.
Well, that's wonderful. So when we wrap up our normal podcast episodes, we always ask 3 standard closing questions. I'll only ask you one tonight, which is if you could only see one show for the rest of your life, but you can see it as many times as you want, which show would you see?
Wow. I think that's tough, but I think that's going to be Sweeney Todd.
Good choice. All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah. All right, everybody. So how can we find Loveville High?
You can find it on iTunes. You can find it on Stitcher. And there's a YouTube channel. I haven't loaded them on it yet, but by tomorrow they will be on that, and they will be on the lovevillehigh.com page as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Harrison Chad, who plays Noah in episode 5 of Loveville High.
Who is Noah?
So, in the episode, my character and Troy Awada's character are in a locker room together. I'm sort of helping Troy. He just got an injury, like on his leg, and so I'm helping him out, and we start to talk about like our life as bros. And then we get into like a pretty romantic song. And then later in the episode, there's a special detail reveal that I won't reveal yet. But then we sing another song about this other person that we both know. His girlfriend.
Yeah.
His girlfriend.
So there's 9 episodes. I was reading all the press materials for this. It's all saying it's all about like gay relationships and straight relationships, and with transgender, cisgender, all sorts of people. So how does that play into your character?
So this episode is about 2 straight guys who love each other.
As bros.
But like wishing that they were gay so that they could date each other. That's literally the name of the song, is like, the line is, I wish I were gay because I'd date you. Which I find myself saying on a daily basis to all of my gay friends, because it's so true.
Well, as a straight man, to some of my straight guy friends, I've been like, you know what? Like, if I were going to be gay, you'd be my boyfriend.
Exactly. We all have that list of, like, celebrities.
Yeah.
But then some people also have, like, your friends who you're like, you know, if I was gay, you'd be my top choice. I guess. When you were pitched...
you handed over the script and you're like, oh, a scripted podcast with Broadway people. What was your first thought?
Oh, I was totally in, because I recently got very into podcasts, and I've been yearning for musical podcasts. I think they're great. I've only heard like improv musical podcasts before, but this was the first time I'd heard of like a scripted one. I'm sure there have been, but I was really just attracted to the material because I really like David and Eric's work, and I just think it's like very funny and real and down to earth and like intimate in a way. Yeah. And podcasts usually are just listened to like on the subway when you're alone or with a lot of people, but it's only in your ears. So yeah.
Did you get to go to your prom, your senior prom?
Yeah, I did go to my prom. David was asking me about this before. My prom I only remember really two things about my prom. It was in an like an aquarium museum.
Eyebrow raise.
Like an aquarium, but it was also aviation. It was a weird place. It was like air and sea. Somewhere on Long Island.
So like a naval base.
Maybe, yeah. I was at a fort. I was actually in the and then the other thing I remember were the appetizers. It was very similar to this party. A lot of mini hot dogs, a lot of good grilled cheese.
Hopefully there was a DJ.
There was probably. I don't know, I had just broken up with my girlfriend 2 weeks before. Wait, this is crazy. I broke up with my girlfriend 2 weeks before, and then I asked her if she would still go to the prom with me. Well, she already had a dress. She'd already bought a dress. But then she said no.
Oh, no.
So I had to, very fast call up this girl I went on a teen tour with. That's embarrassing. I went on a teen tour with this girl, and I called her up and said, will you please be my prom date? It was like 3 days before. She's like, sure. And it was great. We had a lot of fun, but I still kind of feel bad about the other girl.
And did your ex-girlfriend end up going to the prom with somebody else?
No, she was a year younger.
Oh.
So I really screwed her over.
Wait, you gave her the option.
Well, yeah, but I should have, looking back as an adult now, I really should have waited the 2 weeks. I'm not sure what, I needed to do it. It was and then later on, that summer, I tried to get her back.
Oh. That's pretty high school.
Yeah, it's very high school. I left flowers by her door.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you're romantic at heart, it sounds like.
Yeah, but it was weird.
It's fine. So getting back to Loveville High. Do you love, I like this trend of where podcasts are going to have scripted content and all this stuff's going to come out. Do you want to see more of this, or do you think it's kind of pulling away from the natural state of things?
No, I'm so down for it because it's kind of like it's a newer art form in the sense of it's harkening back to these days of old old radio plays where you could listen to a radio play. I remember when I was younger, I did a radio play of what's the movie about Christmas? Every time you hear a bell ringing, where he goes, what is it?
What is it? What? Polar Express.
No. With the guy who's he's trying to save his life. He works at a bank.
It's a Wonderful Life.
It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
We did a radio play of it, and I thought it was awesome. With Foley, and you really see how a sound soundscapes can not necessarily just be on a stage and in front of you or on TV. It's just a different art form, and I think it's pushing the boundaries because most podcasts nowadays are just free form. What we're doing now, just talking back and forth. When you have something scripted, it's just a different form, and I'm interested in that.
Yeah, Foley artists to me, I think they get so less credit. Yeah, the little credit, but when you have something, especially A Quiet Place with John Krasinski, right? You've got a
that
Foley
person
artist.
deserved an Oscar.
Yeah.
The people that worked on that, it's incredible, and I think that's the thing. It's moving in a direction in just a whole new genre. It could be a different genre of theater, where people are. It's relatively inexpensive to produce a podcast compared to a Broadway show. And I think also, weirdly, you could get more ears on it and more people. And it's a story, as I said, a lot about different people and the LGBTQ community and a lot of people in the middle of wherever you live. If you find this podcast on iTunes, it's something that you can really hold on to and get you through high school or through your own prom.
And you've got the potential for an original cast recording because this is all music.
Yeah, that's fun. I mean, Eric is a great composer and David has been a blast to work with. But doing original music, recording, it's just fun. I haven't actually heard my episode yet.
Have you not? They haven't said it to you?
No. I should actually find out if I can listen to it. No, it's cool. It's cool to get. I did a lot of I've done a lot of voiceovers in my life, so it's in the world of what I do. But definitely fun to sing songs that are completely brand new.
Wow. Have you done any voiceovers that we would recognize?
Yeah, I was the voice of Boots on Dora the Explorer.
My producer just went crazy. But beyond
I did a lot of a lot of voiceovers as a kid. I did a bunch of I did Tarzan 2.
Yeah.
I was Tarzan. Glenn Close played my mom, and she just won a Golden Globe.
Yeah. Yesterday.
It was amazing. I've been in in a studio working so we had a blast doing this because, they sent the material over and I vibed with it instantly. But then when we were actually there, me and Troy just turned it up a level and just made it our own, even though we had just met each other that morning.
So you guys real life bros now?
Yeah, we're real life bros. It turns out he's now in Be More Chill, and I'm friends with I'm part of Joe's family, and it all is it's a weird circle of life.
This island of 8 million people is so tiny.
Oh yeah, it's a very small world, and in the theater world, it's infinitely smaller.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for this quick little interview here. Really appreciate it.
Now here is Connor Ryan, who is Johnny in episodes 1 and 9 of Loveville High.
You love podcasts, it sounds like.
I wish I was more of a podcast person. I only listen to a couple. I listen to Pod Save America and Fresh Air, which is more a radio show than a podcast. And but I love it. And it's a great way to learn some information while you're riding the train.
So when somebody came to you and said, "Yo, Connor," they literally said, "Yo, I've got this new thing for you. I want you to audition for it, but it's a podcast." What was the first thing that went through your head?
As always, I think most young actors starting out is just yes, anything and everything. I never turn my nose up at anything unless I physically can't be there, at that time. So, on top of wanting to accept anything coming my way, I also know David and thought the concept was a really cool idea and was overly thrilled to get to be involved. Yeah. So I was just thinking awesome, let's do it.
And who is your character in Loveville High?
So I played Johnny in episode 1 and 9. This specific relationship, in the context of all the relationships that you'll get exposed to over the course of the 9 episodes, is a relationship, a heterosexual relationship between a young man and a young woman in high school, seniors getting ready to graduate. They're high school sweethearts, and they kind of feel like the outcasts, the misfits of their high school.
Pose for picture.
They feel like the poor kids. Whether or not they are the poor kids, I'm not really sure, but they certainly feel like the poor kids. They feel like the underprivileged losers amongst their classmates, and which I kind of think on some level most people can relate to. I play Johnny and Haley Kilgore plays Jane, and
That's interesting that you said most people feel like can relate to that. Do you feel the majority of people go through life with imposter syndrome?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's kind of a part of the human experience. Unless you're living a really cushy nepotism life where you inherited your dad's job, but even that person probably feels like everybody here probably thinks I'm just here because I'm my dad's son and I don't deserve to be here. I think most people experience that kind of I don't belong here thing, right? That's sort of a human thing.
I think so. I think it's kind of human nature if you're a normal person to sort of question it.
I think so, yeah. And I think the thing about Loveville High is they've done a really great job of trying to make these people real people, these kids, real kids, which is something that even for me, who I was in high school a decade ago, which isn't that long, and
you're not a real kid, I get it.
It just makes me feel like it would be really hard to be a kid today, and I feel still like a kid, but to be a high school kid, it'd be really hard. And so the authenticity of what they've written is really cool because kids nowadays with these shootings and everything that's going on politically in our country, it's really hard to be a teenager right now.
Right. Did you draw from your own experiences, like from going to prom and going to high school and all this, or was this?
I have to admit that I've never done a podcast before, so it was really kind of shot out of cannon. You get there and you have the script and you have a couple hours to record it, and so there wasn't a lot of like really deep character work going. I was just kind of trying to fly by the seat of my pants and bring as much truth to the character as I could in the short amount of time I had with it. So I wasn't actively thinking about bringing in my own high school experience, but I'm sure there's some of that in there. I mean, we've all been high schoolers at some point, right?
You are such an animated person. Even standing here with me, having a serious conversation. You're all over the place.
Oh yeah.
And even
I've had a couple drinks.
and in desperate measures.
Oh yeah.
My God, like slapstick all over the place. Have you ever had to play a role where you had to like be stiff and not fluid?
Oh my God, probably. The one isn't jumping to my mind right now, but yeah, Desperate Measures was an amazing opportunity to get to like explore all that weird physical comedy. And I'm in a show right now where I'm playing a rock star, so I get to do all that weirdness still. Yeah. But I think, like for example, like how in high school or college you get to play these parts that you should never play.
Because there's nobody else.
In college, I was Jean Valjean and Les Mis. And that was a little stiff for me, to be honest. That was but that's fun. Getting to do stuff that's challenging is always fun.
That's amazing. So what did you like the most about Loveville High? What do you hope that happens out of this?
Was it you that just a few minutes ago was talking about the sense of community? I think it was Jordan.
No, it was somebody else.
Yeah, I think that even though I haven't met hardly any of these people attached to this, I feel connected to them, and that to me is the coolest thing. Is that like I had like an hour with Haley, but didn't get to know her very much. But the other night I saw Once on the Island, and she saw me in the audience, and afterwards was like, "Is that Connor?" And I was like, I was certain she wouldn't even remember me. We only spent an hour together, And so it's a sense of like connection with people, even if it's a distant connection or sort of a 6 degrees of whatever podcast separation. It's cool to feel a part of something bigger than just you.
Yeah.
And a part of something that is about inclusivity. So it feels like just really nice to get to be a part of the weird little club of weirdos that made this podcast.
I heard once that the Guardians of the Galaxy cast never met Bradley Cooper before the press junkets.
Oh, wow.
Because as Rocket, he was never there on set. He was always just in a voiceover booth. So yeah, same concept, I guess.
Yeah. It's also like the classic story of Meryl Streep not ever talking to Anne Hathaway for the entirety of. No, that's not really the same thing. No. You know what's a better example? I was thinking of Dolores Prada example.
Yes,
that's more kind of method acting example. Yes. You know what? Those actors in Game of Thrones who have been on the same show for like a decade and have never met each other.
Yeah.
That's a better example.
Okay.
Listeners. Connor Ryan, over and out.
Coming up now is Mason Alexander Park, who plays Gendrix in episodes 2, 3, and 9.
And how did you get connected with this very unique project here?
Michael Casera just contacted my agents and sent the script over for this episode and asked if it was a character that I'd be interested in. And so I read it, and they sent demos along with it of the music, and I was just really, I don't know, it was like a really exciting thing to be asked to be a part of, because podcast musicals haven't really become a thing yet, and I know that it's something a lot of people are attempting to bring back, and that like the old days of radio theater and trying to make it a little, I don't know, it's an interesting medium that I was very excited at the idea of getting to be a part of.
It's funny you say radio theater. That's a common theme throughout the night. It's like Harrison said earlier that it harkens back to the days of sitting around, like in the 20s and 30s, where families would like listen to War of the Worlds.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's immediately what I thought of. It's like my brain went to War of the Worlds and all these like just so many random things that I used to listen to when I was a kid and before podcasts really had taken over. And so it's cool that now that because podcasts are such a massive medium that people are listening to all the time and it's allowed room for us to create a more, I don't know, a weirdly artistic and kind of like creative version of a musical within that new world.
Yeah, I love it. And I'm going to switch gears dramatically here. Listening to you speak, you have a low voice. But holy crap, man. Like, you just sang so damn high.
Thank you. I was blessed with a very weird range. So it just depends on like whatever the character kind of requires. I try to alter.
What is your range?
When I was younger, I thought I was a baritone, but over time I've been cast as so many tenors that I think it helped stretch my vocal cords a little bit more than they probably were built for. But I do, I'm a high baritone and I also do countertenor. I can sing female soprano.
Wow,
which is a fun party trick.
I was in chorus. I was forced to sing bass, but then I was like, if I'm going to do anything professionally, I have to sing tenor. So I'm like stuck in this weird, stupid baritone range. Yeah. Not that baritones are stupid. I'm not saying that baritones. No, don't send me hate mail. But so, what did you like the most about being involved with this?
I thought that the source material was really. It was just really well written and well researched. It's like growing up, as a theater kid, there weren't a lot of things that I could listen to or watch that was like in a musical medium that really resonates with what it feels like to be a high schooler. I mean, we had High School Musical, like my generation had that, and we also had Glee, which
I had that.
Yeah, Glee was the thing, and that was a really defining moment in my life. Like I remember both of those things and Spring Awakening. And certain like there were milestones where you were like, oh, young people can do theater, and like there is theater written for young people, and I know that this kind of came for them as an idea because like it also is something that can be done in classroom settings. It can be done in colleges and high schools as these isolated 10-minute scenes. And to me, that was super unique and super exciting because I went to college for musical theater, and I remember the struggle of like, okay, well, what fits your type and what fits your age range and what fits like finding the perfect scene into a song and just I remember the stress of us trying to find material that was good to work in a classroom setting, and these each episode is designed to where it can also function in that way.
And your character, how does it work? Your character is in like one or two of the episodes of the whole thing, and who is your character?
I think Gendrix is in 3, in the second, the third, and the last episode. But the second episode is really Gendrix is like big. It's the episode where I meet Isaac's character, and where we get to sing "Sparkle Like Bowie," which is the only song that I recorded. So it's a very special episode for me because it was the one that I really got a chance to like learn a lot about Gendrix's character and how they identify and all that kind of stuff. But it was fun because when they approached me about Gendrix, like there were no really defining qualities or rules about the character yet. It was sort of like we know we want the character to be an opportunity to represent the LGBTQ community, and especially the on the gender spectrum as opposed to just sexuality, because I mean growing up, like there was no shortage of queer representation in like theater when it came to like gays and straights and that kind of thing. But when it came to the gender spectrum, like that was entirely left to like Hedwig and Frankenfurter and Rocky Horror, and like there were very few roles that I remember finding that finding that androgyny and that kind of gender fluidity in a role. And so this was really cool because that was like the main thing. His sexuality or their sexuality wasn't necessarily the topic of discussion so much as it was like, well, how does this character translate in 2018 and now that kids have more representation and have the opportunity to discover more about not only their sexuality but their gender identity at a young age. It's a very different world that like when I was growing up, I didn't have that kind of thing.
How old are you now? Can I ask that?
I'm 23, so not it wasn't too long ago that I was a teenager.
So I'm 38, and I grew up. I didn't have broadband until I went to college.
Yeah.
Right. And I see now. I didn't have exposure to any of this because I didn't have the internet. I had dial-up. I had 56K dial-up modem literally until my freshman year of college. So I didn't know how to find people on chat boards. I didn't know how to find people who were like me or not like me, or like it was just different. And I mean, so for me, growing up analog and now being an adult in digital world seems slightly different. You're quite a few years younger than me, but how has it changed for you between like when you were in high school and like you said now?
Yeah, I grew up in I feel like my generation was sort of on a weird cusp where depending on your class system and depending on just sort of like where the way that you grew up, you either grew up in kind of a pre-internet world, like I didn't really have access to the internet until I was, in elementary school, which is like crazy to think. Oh my God, like I was so old at that point. But like, we didn't have Instagram or Facebook or any of that kind of stuff until I was getting out of middle school and going into high school, and I didn't even have my first cell phone until I was in high school. And to go from seeing how I grew up to now like thinking about a kid that's in high school now and had access to Instagram since they were in middle school and had that sort of weird interconnected, lonely but super like embracing, strangely connected. I don't know. The internet is just like a fascinating thing, and so I've seen so much of a change, especially with theater. I mean, things like Be More Chill wouldn't really exist 5-6 years ago because there was no such thing as online, like outrage sort of.
Spotify hadn't been around.
Yeah, like there was no way that it would have been able to survive in such a specific way. And so we're very lucky that I think that this theater generation is incredibly lucky that it's allowed people to really access information and access musical theater a lot easier. And I mean, I'm lucky I had YouTube when I grew up because that's how I saw any kind of musical. I didn't really grow up going to see a lot of shows in person because I know a lot of kids my age didn't, unless they lived close to New York or a place where it was easier. And so I had like bootlegs of Cabaret with Alan Cumming and that kind of stuff that got me into it, and that was about it. And then television, and thank God for like it's the silliest thing. And like even when I was 16 and being interviewed for other projects and TV shows that I was a part of, I remember kept going back to that show because I was like, that's the thing that made me realize that there was more than just like people in New York that cared about it, and that it could be turned into a television show that revolved around themes that had to do a lot with show business and musical theater and stuff, and that like people actually were interested in seeing that kind of stuff and watching characters sing and that sort of thing, and so that was exciting to me.
That was 7 years ago. Wow, that was Glee was a long time ago.
I know.
Well, thank you so much for being a part of this, and thank you for speaking with me today. Is there anything else you want to plug real quick about Loveville High?
Loveville High is super unique and super cool, and there are so many incredibly talented artists and actors that were a part of it. And I think it's a very once in a lifetime kind of thing that's gonna set the bar, I think, for a lot of future musicals that are to come. I know my friend John Cameron Mitchell is writing one now called Anthem. That's a podcast musical that should be coming out soon. And as far as that goes, I don't know a lot about any others that are coming out, but it's cool and it's exciting to think that there will be more like this and that I got to be a part of this one.
Yeah, this is the beginning, so thank you for taking a chance on it.
Thank you.
Now, last but certainly not least, please enjoy this chat with Adam Rothenberg from callmeadam.com.
We are here with Call Me Adam.
Yes.
So what is your full name?
My full name is Adam Rothenberg.
And what do you do?
I host my own website where I interview actors and performers. I ask them the heartfelt and fun questions other sites don't. And people seem to open up to me about things they haven't talked about in previous interviews.
And what attracted you to Loveville High tonight?
several things. The cast, for sure. I've seen a lot of them in different Broadway shows, and they're fantastic. And I just love the concept of it, that it's 9, 10-minute episodes. It tells a musical theater story throughout the whole 10 episodes, but each episode is sort of self-contained, so you can listen to just one episode at a time. And I think it's a really fresh and innovative way to present musical theater to audiences.
Are you a fan of podcasts?
I am.
What is your favorite podcast?
My favorite, I would say one of my favorite is Kathy Lee Gifford's podcast. I have adored her for years, and I just love the questions she asks her interviewees, and she's always delightful to listen to. And that's probably not what you were expecting.
No, it was not at all, but there is no wrong answer.
That's great.
And, how did you get started with your own website? Where did this come from?
Well, I used to do stand-up comedy on the side of having a day job, and the stand-up comedy obviously didn't go anywhere. So I was still looking for a way to interview people. I was looking for a way to entertain people. And I read a lot of interviews, and I was like, well, I have questions I want to ask. And I just started emailing people I knew in the theater community, being like, hey, I have a blog, and would you want to be part of it? And then I started contacting press reps, and I started getting bigger names, and now I get a lot of interviews of a range of people, from people just starting out all the way up to more well-known names. Some of the people I've interviewed over the 10 years have been Sutton Foster, Kathleen Turner, Olivia Newton-John, oh my God, now of course, I'm forgetting everybody.
Olivia Newton-John, though, that's an icon in this industry.
Yes. Oh, George Takei from Star Trek.
Yes.
I actually got to go to his apartment and do the interview, and I sat with him for an hour and a half. It was incredible.
Have you met his husband, Brad? Was he there too?
I did, yes. Very nice.
I met George and Brad years ago, and they're two of the nicest guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
And Gavin Creel I've interviewed, who I love. It's Charles Bush, Julie Halston. Just incredible people. I've been very lucky. I feel very fortunate.
So why do you continue to come back and do this? You said you've been doing it for 10 years.
Yeah.
Why do you continue to do this?
I love it. I absolutely love it. I love meeting people. I love learning about people. I love finding out what makes them tick. It's so much fun for me.
That's amazing. So where can we find you? Where can we find all of your interviews?
You can find them all at on my website, callmeadam.com. You can also follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at callmeadamnyc. And follow me. I would love it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for talking.
Thank you, Alan. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to this wonderful bonus episode. To find and subscribe to Loveville High, you can start by visiting lovevillehigh.com, and you should also follow them on Instagram at Loveville High, or just simply search for Loveville High everywhere you find podcasts today. To get more of me, as always, you can find me online on Instagram and Twitter at theater_podcast, or on Facebook /official theater podcast. Wherever you're listening now, please rate and give an honest review. I love reading them, and you can visit on the web, thetheaterpodcast.com. This podcast is also produced by Jillian Hockman, and as always, thank you to our friends Jukebox the Ghost for the intro and outro music that you always hear every single episode. See you later.
Take a deep breath, make the world a little colorful.